welcome to episode 21 of the CySA Plus Prepcast. In this episode, we explore the infrastructure concepts that underpin the modern Security Operations Center. These foundational technologies support detection, analysis, investigation, and remediation efforts across distributed and hybrid environments. For cybersecurity analysts, understanding how virtualization, containerization, serverless computing, and cloud services function and interact is critical. These aren't just buzzwords or architectural choices made by IT teams. They shape the way logs are generated, threats are detected, and incidents are responded to. This knowledge gives analysts a deeper understanding of both the operating environment and the potential attack surface, directly impacting their ability to defend the enterprise. To begin, let's look at the function of infrastructure in the SOC. Security operations centers depend on layered infrastructure to support operational monitoring, log analysis, network visibility, and security control enforcement. Whether on-premises, virtualized, or deployed in the cloud, each environment presents analysts with a unique set of monitoring, integration, and response challenges. Analysts must not only interpret alerts, but also understand the systems generating them. This means knowing the basics of how workloads are deployed, how applications are managed, and how users are authenticated and authorized. This background knowledge enhances the analyst's ability to assess the severity of alerts, identify patterns, and triage effectively. Virtualization remains a bedrock technology in enterprise infrastructure. Analysts must understand how hypervisors such as VMware ESXi, Microsoft Hyper-V, and KVM work to support multiple virtual machines on a single physical host. Virtual machines offer isolation, but they also introduce specific risks. Virtual machine sprawl, for example, occurs when virtual machines are created without sufficient oversight, increasing the attack surface and making inventory tracking difficult. Analysts need to monitor for unauthorized VM creation, snapshot misuse, and hypervisor vulnerabilities that could allow lateral movement between virtual machines. Security depends on maintaining control of the virtual environment and applying patches consistently across both the hypervisor and the guest systems. Mismanagement of virtualization leads to exposure. Analysts may detect suspicious virtual machine behavior by monitoring for unexpected resource consumption, unusual internal traffic between VMs, or abnormal administrative activity. For example, a virtual machine that spikes in CPU usage with no associated workload may be compromised and used for crypto mining. On the exam, expect questions that require evaluating virtualization risks or determining how to monitor specific elements of a virtual infrastructure. Containerization is another major infrastructure evolution. Tools like Docker allow for fast, repeatable deployment of applications inside isolated environments. Unlike virtual machines, containers share the host operating system kernel, making them lighter and faster, but also more reliant on strict access control and image validation. Analysts must understand how containers are created, how they interact with the host, and how configuration errors can expose the system. A common threat is container escape, in which a compromised container allows access to the host system. Other risks include privilege escalation and the use of insecure base images. Securing containerized environments requires a multi-layered approach. Analysts should verify that container images come from trusted registries, are scanned for vulnerabilities, and follow secure build practices. Runtime security is also vital. This includes limiting container privileges, monitoring interkinetic communication, and controlling access to host resources. On the exam, you may be asked which tools or practices improve container security or which indicators suggest a compromised container. Serverless computing has transformed the way applications are delivered. In this model, code is executed as a function in response to events, without the need for the organization to manage the underlying servers. Popular serverless platforms include AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Functions, and Azure Functions. Analysts must understand how serverless functions are triggered, how access controls are managed, and what data can be accessed during execution. While serverless environments reduce infrastructure overhead, they introduce new monitoring challenges. Traditional endpoint detection tools are not effective, and analysts must rely on cloud NAT logs and event triggers to detect malicious activity. The security risks in serverless environments include overly permissive execution roles, function chaining that enables data leakage, and injection attacks targeting the function inputs. Analysts need to know how to configure logging, enforce function isolation, and validate permissions to prevent abuse. Expect the exam to include questions about how to monitor or secure serverless environments and which signs might indicate that a serverless function has been compromised. Cloud infrastructure is deeply embedded in modern SOC operations. Analysts need to understand how organizations deploy workloads in public, private, and hybrid cloud environments. Common cloud providers include Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. Analysts must be able to assess cloud security posture, monitor configurations, and audit identity access controls. This includes evaluating security group settings, ensuring data is encrypted, and reviewing user permissions across cloud environments. Tools like AWS CloudTrail, Azure Monitor, and GCP audit logs help analysts maintain visibility into cloud activities. Cloud security risks are diverse and often stem from misconfiguration. These include publicly accessible storage buckets, unencrypted databases, weak or reused credentials, and overly broad IAM roles. Analysts must perform regular audits, use security posture management tools, and correlate cloud logs with internal alerts. The exam may present scenarios where cloud assets are exposed, and you will be asked to identify the misconfiguration or choose the most effective mitigation step. Understanding modern network infrastructure is just as important. Analysts must understand how networks are segmented, where security appliances are deployed, and how software-defined networking allows centralized control of network flows. Secure Access Service Edge is a modern architecture that combines networking with cloud-delivered security controls. It provides identity-based access enforcement, traffic inspection, and integrated threat protection regardless of user location. Analysts monitoring SASE environments must know how policies are enforced, where logs are generated, and how events are correlated with user behavior. Software-defined networking gives analysts more flexibility but also adds complexity. Because SDN controllers manage traffic rules centrally, any compromise of the controller can have wide-reaching effects. Analysts must monitor the controller, verify flow rules, and ensure access to the control plane is tightly restricted. During the exam, be prepared to answer questions that involve analyzing SDN traffic patterns or determining the best practices for securing controller access. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Now that we've explored the virtual, containerized, and cloud-based components of modern SOC infrastructure, let's shift to the foundational systems that support identity, event analysis, endpoint monitoring, and threat containment. These infrastructure elements form the backbone of every analyst toolkit and are essential to understanding how data moves, how it is controlled, and how threats are detected and acted upon within an enterprise. A modern security operations center does more than just monitor logs. It coordinates a network of platforms and services to respond to security events with speed and precision. Mastery of these systems is expected on the CySA Plus exam and is critical in day-to-day analyst work. And with respect to incident and quality, identity and access management infrastructure is at the center of all cybersecurity controls. Analysts must understand how identities are authenticated, how roles are defined, and how access is granted, logged, and revoked. This includes the integration of multi-factor authentication systems, which combine passwords with one-time codes or biometrics, as well as the use of single sign-on platforms, which allow users to authenticate once and access multiple systems. Analysts must also understand federation, which allows identity information to be shared securely across domains, and privileged access management, which protects administrative accounts with strict oversight and auditing. These tools are often integrated with cloud access security brokers that extend access policies to cloud platforms. Effective identity and access management allows analysts to detect anomalies like logins from unexpected geolocations, sudden elevation of privileges, or unauthorized access to high-value assets. Logs from IAM systems are often the first place analysts detect indicators of compromise. During the exam, expect questions that assess your ability to identify signs of identity abuse or recommend IAM configuration improvements to reduce risk. Security information and event management platforms are critical for aggregating log data across multiple infrastructure layers. These platforms include Splunk, the Elastic Stack, IBM QRadar, and others. Analysts use SIEM systems to collect, normalize, and correlate logs from firewalls, endpoints, applications, and network devices. The ability to search for patterns, define detection rules, and generate alerts based on correlated events is central to analyst effectiveness. SIEMs also serve as the main source of reporting and dashboarding for SOC operations, allowing leadership to review incidents, track metrics, and validate compliance. Modern SIEMs integrate with threat intelligence feeds to enhance detection accuracy. These feeds may include lists of known malicious IP addresses, domain names, or file hashes. When combined with correlation rules, this context allows analysts to more accurately determine whether a set of events represents an actual attack. Analysts must know how to tune these rules, avoid alert fatigue, and maintain a balance between detection sensitivity and specificity. The CySA Plus exam often includes SIEM scenarios where you must interpret alert logic or choose the best course of action based on aggregated event data. Security orchestration, automation, and response platforms build upon the capabilities of SIEMs by automating workflows. These platforms allow SOCs to predefine how common incidents are handled, enabling consistent and fast responses. Analysts use SOAR tools to triage alerts, assign tickets, enrich alerts with external data, isolate systems, and notify stakeholders. For example, a phishing alert might trigger a SOAR playbook that extracts the email, scans the attachment, notifies the affected user, and blocks the sending address automatically. SOAR tools like Cortex XSOAR, IBM Resilient, and Swimlane streamline repetitive processes and reduce human error. They also support metrics tracking, case management, and integration with incident response frameworks. The CySA Plus exam may ask how SOAR differs from SIEM or test your ability to select the most appropriate playbook step in a given response scenario. Analysts are expected to understand how automation enhances SOC performance without compromising response accuracy. Endpoint detection and response infrastructure is another vital part of modern SOCs. EDR platforms provide detailed telemetry from devices such as laptops, servers, and virtual machines. These tools monitor process activity, file changes, network behavior, and user interaction in real time. Analysts rely on EDR tools like CrowdStrike Falcon, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and SentinelOne to identify and investigate suspicious behavior at the device level. EDR allows containment actions such as process termination, network isolation, or remote file deletion, all from a central console. What sets EDR apart from traditional antivirus is its behavioral analysis and response capabilities. EDRs detect threats based on sequences of actions, rather than signature matches alone. Analysts must interpret these alerts to distinguish between legitimate administrative activity and malicious behavior that mimics it. The CySA Plus exam may provide you with EDR telemetry and ask you to identify whether the activity is normal or indicative of a breach. Malware analysis and sandboxing infrastructure provide another layer of defense. When a suspicious file is detected, it can be submitted to a sandbox environment like Joe Sandbox or Cuckoo Sandbox. These tools execute the file in a controlled virtual environment and monitor for behaviors such as registry modifications, network communications, or attempts to escalate privileges. Analysts use this output to determine whether the file is benign, malicious, or needs further manual analysis. The results may be integrated back into SIEM and EDR systems for correlation and detection enhancement. Zareth summarizes, sandboxing provides not only threat detection but also threat intelligence. Analysts can extract indicators of compromise from sandbox reports and use them to create detection rules or block lists. The CySA Plus exam may require you to interpret basic sandbox reports or select the best response based on observed file behavior. Analysts should know what types of actions indicate a threat, such as attempted command and control communication or the disabling of security tools. Backup and disaster recovery infrastructure is essential to the resilience of SOC environments. Analysts must ensure that data is backed up according to policy, that backups are tested regularly, and that restoration procedures are documented and verified. Recovery point objectives define how much data an organization can afford to lose, while recovery time objectives define how quickly systems must be restored. Analysts must monitor for threats that target backups, such as ransomware or insider deletion attempts, and ensure that backups are protected from modification and unauthorized access. Backup logs, restoration logs, and system state snapshots are important sources of evidence during incident response. Forensic investigation often depends on comparing live system data with known good backups to identify what changed and how the attacker operated. The CySA Plus exam may test your understanding of backup integrity, recovery testing, or incident handling in environments where backups have been compromised or were improperly configured. To conclude this episode, mastering the infrastructure elements of a modern security operations center is a critical requirement for every cybersecurity analyst. From virtualization and containerization, to cloud and endpoint detection, to SIEM and SOAR platforms, these tools work together to provide the visibility, control, and automation necessary for modern defense. Analysts must not only know how these systems function, but how to use them to detect, investigate, and respond to evolving threats. These infrastructure skills provide a solid foundation for both exam readiness and real-world operations. Continue practicing with these platforms, exploring their capabilities, and reviewing use cases to reinforce your expertise. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.